Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. We got some bans this week. We got Psychic Frog and Vexing Bauble both taken out of the format. So where does that leave us for midweek meta deck? Well, I'm going to play a deck that I think is going to be good rather than one that has won a tournament because we don't really know because there's been no tournaments because I'm recording this hours after the bans came out. So you may be looking at what's in front of you and saying this looks awfully familiar. Well, you are not wrong. They did not ban Entomb. So you still get to run this whole Entomb, Reanimate, Animate Dead, Archon of Cruelty, Atraxa, Troll of Khazad-dum nonsense. That's still a thing that we get to play in Legacy. So the only thing that it's lost is the Psychic Frog. Now Tamiyo does a reasonable impression of Psychic Frog. It generates card advantage every single turn. It can also represent a nice win condition on its own because if you draw half your library, you should be able to close that game. And then we have one Emperor of Bones, which is just like another thing that is fine to do. I think this could be a Barrowgoyf. I think Barrowgoyf is a relatively good replacement for the Psychic Frog in some respects. But the rest of the deck is exactly as you remember it. So we got Force of Wills and Dazes, we got a one of Murktide Regent and some Brazen Borrowers, we got our cantrips, our hand disruption, our little bit of removal, a couple of Wastelands, the mana base we all know and love with a swamp and an island, along with a whole way of chewing up the lands we need with fetches, whilst also having a couple of Surveil lands in there. So yeah, it is basically the same deck with just 4 cards swapped out for the next thing on the list of how good cards are. So we've lost the Psychic Frog and we're taking one step down and playing Tamiyo instead. And I think it's still going to be one of the best decks in the format. In my opinion, the best decks at the moment are the Nadu decks, the Mystic Forge combo, and Blue-Black Tempo Reanimator, which is exactly what it was before the bans. I don't think they've really done enough here. So we're very much in a situation of the king is dead, long live the king, and all that sort of jazz. Our sideboard is pretty much as you expect, a little bit of graveyard hate, just a whole bunch of stuff that you would expect, really. I'm not going to go into it. We've seen all these sorts of cards before, and we've seen this deck before. I'm also trying to record multiple times in one day because I was holding off until the ban announcement so that my content was relevant from Tuesday onwards this week, which does mean I'm recording a lot on Monday. So without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. Remember to like and subscribe. YouTube member, £1 a month. You get to see my videos early. Why not do that if you're in a position to do so? And let's start playing some Blue-Black Tempo Reanimator, the deck that just won't die. Right, our opener does not have any lands in, so this is going to get shoved right back into our deck. Yeah, our hand gets to do the silly stuff. So what are we looking at keeping here? I think it's probably the Emperor that goes. Is he the Emperor or one of our lands? I'm going to get rid of the Emperor of Bones. We're going to do the unfair stuff here. So this way we have Entomb, Reanimate, and if that doesn't work, we have Troll of Khazad-dum, Animate Dead. A Wasteland from our opponent. Force of Will with no blue card. That's a pity, but I can live with that. That's what our opponent is all about. An Eye of Ugin. So we're on some Eldrazi nonsense. Okay. Let's crack this. We'll go and get... We'll just get a basic swamp here. Cast Entomb. Get this Archon of Cruelty. And you've seen this song and dance before, I'm sure. We've got a little bit of a pause in our upkeep. Our opponent doesn't have the mana available to cast a Kozilek's Command here, so they can't exile our graveyard, so we just get to go, take out their Fleshraker, a card from their hand, have the biggest thing on the board, and live a glorious life. I think the Archon is better here, or we even got ourselves a nice little blue card to pair with our Force of Will. Beautiful. Island is fine here. I think I will Animate Dead this instead of reanimating it. Just in case our life total becomes awkward with some weird chain of Fleshrakers next turn. Alright, not a bad turn. I think Entomb being legal just means that it's very easy to splash this in other decks where you're going to be running Troll of Khazad-dum anyway, really. Blanking our opponent's Wastelands, because why not? We're going to see Fleshraker into Fleshraker, possibly spewing off some more stuff. Nope, they just had enough. Okay. So, what is good against our opponent's deck? I like Consign to Memories, quite obviously. This is also a Wasteland matchup. Other removal spells are good. Barrowgoyfs are also good. So there's a big selection of stuff that we can play here. How much we want to ease off on the graveyard is the question. I think we probably want to ease off some. I don't think this is an Atraxa matchup. I think this is an Archon of Cruelty, so we can pivot off of these a little bit. If we're expecting Chalice, we can take out some Reanimates. That seems reasonable. We can still Emperor of Bones and get some stuff going that way. The Dazes don't seem great here. I think we need to keep hold of Force of Wills even if they're not amazing. Tamiyo isn't great in this matchup, but we kind of need it there as a thing to do if our graveyard's getting locked down. Are we trimming on the Tamiyo? So this is our... We've got 5 pieces of reanimation. We're still going into the whole Entomb plan here. I think that's fine. We probably don't have enough time to cast these Ponders, to be honest. Let's try this. Feel a bit more confident on the play than on the draw, which is hardly a surprise given the aggressive nature of our opponent's deck. What does this hand do? We can play a Tamiyo. We can Thoughtseize. So we could Thoughtseize on one and then try and reanimate what we Thoughtseize. The problem is these Eldrazi decks don't play the cool targets that they used to. I think this hand is fine though. Once upon a time, Eldrazi decks used to run things like Reality Smasher. So if you were to get leylined, you would just take your opponent's creatures. Speaking of once upon a time, here we are. So depending on what our opponent does, might impact what we want to play on turn 1. I don't think the Tamiyo is very good in this matchup. So I am more encouraged to do a Thoughtseize line. Bring up a potential Kozilek's Command on our guy as well. And then we just fire off the Thoughtseize here. Take our opponent's best stuff. A Thoughtseer. Sure, we'll take one of your threats. Then we can counterspell the next one. And reanimate it. Yeah, so next time we can play Tamiyo and reanimate the Thoughtseer. And just start spewing out all the cards. This Murktide... Oh, a Flesh Raker. So they have 1 colourless mana up. How much do I care about this Flesh Raker? Because they're going to play... They're going to play this Lotus Petal and this Thoughtseer. But we only get to stop one thing. That's interesting. I think I'm going to counterspell the Thoughtseer. So we could pitch the Tamiyo instead of the Force now they have a threat in play and just work towards casting this Murktide, which can end the game. Let's just get rid of this Tamiyo. 2 cards in our graveyard. We get to Brainstorm and reanimate the Thoughtseer. Our opponent only has 1 card in hand, so Thoughtseer is going to be great. Not going to be great here. I think we start off with a Brainstorm and see what we can shake loose. Scalding Tarn, Archon of Cruelty. So if we, next turn, go and fetch a Surveil land, in response, Brainstorm the Archon on top, then we have to use the Reanimate rather than the Animate Dead. And our Archel is under pressure from this Flesh Raker. And our opponent doesn't have any real ways of messing with us right now. An interesting proposition. I think we put back the Murktide and the Archon here. We go for that plan that I just mentioned. Like we could reanimate something right now, but that's 4 life, and I don't think that's worth. We need our opponent to not really find anything good this turn. If they find a Kozilek's Command, then we're in trouble. Because they can either ping us a bunch now, or they can just save it and exile our graveyard. But they only have the 1 card in hand. Ideally, they play out a land that we haven't seen. That would be the best case scenario here. I think we still go for the play that I mentioned. It's whole priority. This trigger on the stack. I'm going to cast a Brainstorm. So we have to reanimate now if we are doing that. So I guess we put back the Emperor of Bones and the Archon of Cruelty is fine. And then we mill off the Archon. If our opponent has drawn exactly Kozilek's Command, then they win here. We didn't find the blue card to pair with our Force. Okay, they're just going to sack an Eldrazi Spawn, but we're going to go up to 7 in a second. And our opponent is Hellbent. We're basically just trying to dodge Kozilek's Command here. If we don't have something good this turn, then we should be able to win this game comfortably. A Thoughtseer. Okay, this gives them like some chaff to like reanimate with, so they might just take our Animate Dead here. But if we find a land next turn, we get to Emperor of Bones and bring back their Thoughtseer if we want to. We can do that in our opponent's turn. They might go after Entomb. They don't know that we have taken out... Like, we can obviously just get a Troll, and Troll is big. But we don't have an Atraxa in here. They'd probably go after the Entomb or the Animate Dead because of how scary that can become. There goes the Entomb. Sure. They can't attack into our Archon here. So we get to crash for quite a bunch here. We do need to be a little bit wary of our life total. Okay, a Murktide Regent. Let's see what we draw first. So we can Animate Dead their Thoughtseer, just have a big creature back on blocks. We could play the Murktide Regent here, but I quite like holding up the Force of Will, just to stop Kozilek's Command from killing us. I'll just make a 3/4. They don't have any cards in hand, so they don't get to take anything. But if we crack once more with this Archon, that's all we need to do. And we're sat on a Force of Will blue card. Kozilek's Command is the only thing I'm scared of here, but we can counterspell that, so it won't resolve. I guess they could have Devourer of Destiny here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Devourer of Destiny is pretty good. In fact, Devourer of Destiny at this moment in time is worse than Kozilek's Command because we have the counterspell lined up. We just need to attack once more with our Archon and then we're good. I think we block the Flesh Raker if they attack with both. If they attack with just the Thought-Knot Seer, we don't give them an additional card. If we draw a land, we get to Emperor of Bones and bring back the Archon of Cruelty. Oh no, it gets properly exiled, doesn't it, actually? It's not just destroy. Let's see what our opponent's got over there. It feels like a Kozilek's Command, the way they're putting the mana into it, step by step. Let's say no to this one. That should be the game right there. Yep, okay. They did not do enough to nerf our deck, I don't believe. Let's go to round 2. Okay, we can Entomb Reanimate again. I guess that's a perfectly reasonable thing to be doing, isn't it? Ancient Tomb. What flavour Ancient Tomb is this going to be? A Lotus Petal. We can't Fortune. Oh, red mana. Is this going to be a Blood Moon? A Fable. Okay. So I don't believe we're going to get counterspelled here. So I'm just going to get a basic Swamp up and running here. And I think I want to Fatal Push this. To stop their mana generation. We could have waited till our opponent's turn, really. We're a little bit angsty there to do it. But the plan the next turn is to just Entomb Reanimate, get a big boy, win the game. I don't think our opponent can beat an Archon of Cruelty. Okay, we're on Painter. Okay, so they can beat an Archon of Cruelty. It's going to be another Fable. An Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, so this is an Atraxa line instead of a... we could just start off with a Tamiyo, but the Tamiyo isn't great for a number of reasons. Because this is blue and gets Pyroblasted. Alright, I think I will get a Tamiyo up and running. You can always attack into the Ensnaring Bridge. And one of Ensnaring Bridge, eh? I imagine it's a one of in our opponent's deck as a Goblin Engineer target. But sometimes you'll draw it, and sometimes it'll be relevant. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, that's certainly going to be annoying down the stretch. We're going to get blasted here. I reckon we're getting blasted. If they have a blast, I would definitely fire it off there, because once we untap, we have Brainstorm available. And that's not something our opponent really wants us to be doing. Let's get a Ponder on. Reanimate, Entomb, Wasteland. I don't mind the Wasteland, but I don't think I want the selection of cards. I think it's in any order in shuffle. A Daze. That has some merit. I will play this Polluted Delta. We can either crack a clue, or we can go and get Surveil Land. We're just looking for our Brazen Borrowers. We got 2 of them. We can just Atraxa and bring back a Borrower as well. Khan the Great Creator. What a great creator that guy is. If we want the clue token, we probably have to crack now. Another land. Alright, I think our opponent is on the way to winning this game. Obviously, we've got a lot of nonsense we can pull off here. Right, they're tutoring. What is it going to be? They're going for combo pieces, or they're just trying to lock us out. Might get something like a liquid metal coating here. Yeah, they went for the coating. They're not playing it into a Daze. They're attacking with their Goblin Shaman first to get the mana to pay around the Daze. Very smart. It's free to do so, obviously, but it still makes it the objectively correct play there. We've also got the Reflection of Kiki Jiki. We can do some pretty wild stuff. I'm not going to force them to blow their treasure. I doubt our Daze is going to get any better, though. But you never know. Can just be a blue card for a Force of Will. A Brainstorm. Don't mind a Brainstorm. I like this Force of Will. Obviously, we don't want the Archon in hand, so that can go. We have a lot of lands, unfortunately. Oh, we should have attacked first. Not that it matters that much here. Because we can't crack our tokens. Let's Entomb. Get Atraxa. I think Atraxa is better than Archon of Cruelty. But Archon of Cruelty takes away one of their permanents. Atraxa digs us deeper. I think it's the Atraxa here. We've got another Underground Sea to go and fetch here. Let's reanimate our Atraxa. Just defend our Tamiyo. Draws us a bunch of cards. How many creatures do we have here? 2 creatures. Okay, so that's a choice. How many sorceries do we have? We got Ponder, Brainstorm. Brainstorm is the only instance. That's a given. There's only 1 land in here. We can reanimate our next guys. That doesn't feel great. I think the Ponder looks better than the reanimate here. And do I want the Emperor of Bones or do I want the Troll of Khazad-dum? The Emperor of Bones does impact our opponent a fair bit here. I think I'm going to take the Emperor of Bones and get rid of this Daze. So we find the Borrower, bounce the Karn, have a jolly good time. We can do a bit of brainstorming and pondering, looking for it next turn. We could be getting caught by a Lattice this turn, but we do have the Force of Will to try and cover for that. But they have the treasure tokens if they are working towards Lattice with Pyroblast backup. That's just going to be good. But there's only so much we get to do. Alright, they're copying their little friend. They could have copied the other reflection here. So they can Liquid Metal Coating our Tamiyo to stop us activating it next turn. That's what they want to do. This is going to give us a little bit more life to work with as well. So we can reanimate some stuff with actual factual reanimate. I really don't like this Tamiyo. So we'll hit the actual one that is a real one because this one's dying next turn anyway. We gain 7 life. I don't think this game is going to come down to life totals though. Alright, so they're just going to use the Karn as a strip mine. We have quite a lot of land to work with, that's not the issue here. We're just looking for that Borrower. It does give us fewer looks at the Borrower because we have less mana to spin our wheels with. Another Ensnaring Bridge. Get out of here. I think we get rid of the Ponder here. We could Entomb at end step, or we could use this Entomb as a shuffle. Two equally interesting decisions there. We already got 2 lands and this guy that we're looking to put back. So I think we will Entomb at end step. Let's put this Archon of Cruelty in there. Okay, Brainstorm is our first port of call here. Not find what I wanted there. So what are we putting back? We want the Force of Will blue card. I don't think we need the Thoughtseize, and I'll put back a land here. I'll plus the Tamiyo. I will play this land out. I think I will play out the Emperor of Bones, and we'll exile their Ensnaring Bridge. So they're on a multiple Ensnaring Bridge build. Good to know. So we're going to shuffle before we draw any more cards. And then we're going to Surveil as well. We're just looking for that tasty little Brazen Borrower. We can use the Tamiyo to try and find it by getting back a Brainstorm or a Ponder. A Painter's Servant. That's a pretty good one. I think we have to let this resolve. And we counter the other thing. Because their Pyroblast are going to hit our counter magic, whatever. What are they going to find here? Presumably the Grindstone, just try and win the game. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. Is the last card in hand a Pyroblast? It was not. Okay. Like, we do kill them if we find the Borrower, because we get to Emperor of Bones, get back the Archon of Cruelty, and that is lethal. But we do need to find the Borrower and leverage it quite quickly. We don't have a lot of time to spin our wheels here. A Goblin Engineer. Is this lethal? I haven't done the maths here. So they have red mana to spin it, 3 mana up. Yeah, this should be lethal, right? They go and fetch a Grindstone. Oh no, they need 1 more mana here, right? Because they need to copy it with a reflection to go this turn. So that gives us a turn. They don't need to shoot it for the Grindstone, it's already in the graveyard. Okay, they've got another Ensnaring Bridge. So they can just put the bridge in. Alright, we're on a many Ensnaring Bridge plan, I see. They can do this at instant speed. Or they can do it now. If they get down to 3 life, then we can just play the Archon of Cruelty from the graveyard and win the game that way. I wonder if they're going to go and fetch a piece of graveyard hate for that specific reason. So we can turn off the Ancient Tombs next turn. But it becomes a little bit difficult for us to finish them off. Double Ensnaring Bridge A with different arts to really get me good. And they've got a Phyrexian Dragon Engine there. They don't have any more red sources, so they can't produce any more artifacts this turn. Shutting off Ancient Tombs is going to be pretty useful though, so I definitely think we're going for it. There is an option to minus our Tamiyo and try and get them in a slightly different fashion. So we could just bring back the thing for realsies. Undercity Sewers, work your magic. An Entomb, that can get in the bin. A Brainstorm. Does the Brainstorm matter here? If we put our opponent to 3, how are we getting through all of these bits and pieces? That's a tough ask, isn't it? Alright, I don't really want either of these, if I'm being perfectly honest. Don't really like the Reanimate too much here either. I don't think our life total is under that much pressure. So you put Regent Daze. Oh, the Daze becomes good if we're going to shut off their Wasteland. So maybe put the Reanimate on top. And we mill over the Reanimate. So when this adapts, we get the guy. Now, our opponent might have some graveyard hate. It shouldn't matter here. We can pop the Tamiyo, which will probably find us a Borrower in 15 cards. So we get rid of our own Archon of Cruelty here. So if our opponent makes a mistake and activates an Ancient Tomb, we can just kill them. So I think that's better than switching them off. Let our opponent make a mistake. And Urza's Saga. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, our opponent has decided to animate their Liquid Metal Coating. This means they can copy this and restrict all of our permanents if they wish. It's an interesting line. So they are copying their Goblin Engineer. I guess so. This Daze rotting away in our hand here. But we do get to draw a lot of cards next turn if we can get to next turn. A Pithing Needle. So this is going to name Tamiyo. I'm going to adapt this creature now. So this is going to get us a little bit more of our opponent's life total. Puts our opponent to 1. Makes their mana situation a little bit awkward. So hopefully we can stop our opponent from being able to do... So this is going to name Tamiyo. So I hope this stops our opponent from being able to do that much. But yeah, this is quite a finely poised game. I put our opponent to 1. Our Tamiyo isn't able to pop. But we could bounce this and then pop everything. Do I want this Murktide in play? I think so. So what are we looking at removing? How many Ponders have we got here? We've got a lot of Brainstorms, so we can take out some number of Brainstorms here. 2 Brainstorms, we've got 2 Force of Will, so we can take out one of those. 2 Reanimates can take out one of those. Wouldn't mind having a Fatal Push to come back to, so we'll take out the Entomb for the other one. So we'll make a nice big friend. We could Animate Dead on our opponent's Goblin Engineer. That doesn't really feel like a useful place to be. I guess we're just sat here with our Daze. I'm going to take out our opponent's Grindstone, I think, here. Or is it the Dragon Engine? The Dragon Engine isn't something they're liable to get back. I don't really want this Liquid Metal Coating back either. I think that's okay. I think it's... Is it the Grindstone? They can get the Grindstone again with the Karn. Interesting choice here. Which one do I not want our opponent flipping into play? Like the Coating can let them turn anything they want into an artifact. So they can use these... Okay, I'm going to get rid of the Coating here. My Kingdom from Orcish Bowmasters. We've got more time than our opponent here, so they're just probably going to flip this into play now anyway. Or not. I'm just going to let it go. Do I want this Phyrexian Dragon Engine to draw some more cards? I think so. The problem is they're just going to flip it into play with... Oh, that's an interesting play we can do next turn. No, it doesn't really work, actually, does it? Because they flip it in, they draw the cards, but they haven't got enough cards for any of our creatures to attack, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think Saga Beatdown is the way this game is going to go either, but they can get some more artifacts to start doing stuff with. Can we get paid out with this turn 8 Daze? That is a real question. Troll of Khazad-dum. We don't have any more Surveil lands, but we can thin our deck to get towards that Brazen Borrower, which I think is worth doing. So, do I want to reanimate their Dragon Engine and try and draw some cards? I think it is worth a go. It's going to force our opponent's hand a little bit here. We could Daze our own spell if we want to. Just to reset a Surveil land. Which we can do if our opponent messes around here. But I think the Daze might be relevant because of how little our opponent is on in terms of cards. Do we not get cards from this? Oh, it's from your graveyard. Well, you live and learn. I will take this Grindstone, I suppose. Okay, they want to keep the Grindstone around, even though the Karn can just kind of do that anyway. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes ahead of our opponent on clock as well, so we're definitely going to keep playing this one out. We can definitely get something going here. This 1 life is annoying. I wonder if we missed a point of damage at some point in time. I don't think we did. Right, they're just floating mana off the Urza's Saga. Can we get paid out with a Daze? A Soul Guide Lantern. They're going to remove our Troll of Khazad-dum. They are. I don't believe that matters. A Painter's Servant. They don't have the mana to activate this right now without dying. So I don't know what the point of dazing this is going to be. Although if we daze it, we do get to... Yeah, we daze this. We get to reset our Surveil land. And our opponent doesn't get to Goblin Engineer this turn. I think our opponent is likely to win this one. They just wriggled just well enough here. They're going to fetch something. What are they going to fetch? They got a Lion's Eye Diamond in the sideboard. That'd be sick. A Tormod's Crypt. Okay, that's fine. Why is it letting me adapt this again? That's not how that works. Or can you pay, but it doesn't do anything? Uncertain. Flooded Strand. That's not the one we wanted, was it? Our opponent still needs to find a mana source to activate their painter. Oh, this Wasteland is not actually very good. Going to the graveyard. I will take out their other Ensnaring Bridge. So now they only have one Ensnaring Bridge, so just a Brazen Borrower is enough. We don't need doubled Brazen Borrower anymore. So we need our opponent to brick on land for a little bit. Or just tap with Ancient Tomb and forget. So they can probably set up a Great Furnace this turn and then have enough mana next turn by just like turning their Soul Guide Lantern or Tormod's Crypt into a Great Furnace by copying their Engineer and then bringing it back. But that means we have one more draw step to try and blow up our opponent's bridge. And Entomb, what does that do for us? Do we have an Orcish Bowmasters in our deck? We do not. Check to make sure I'm not forgetting any random stuff that might be useful to put in our graveyard. Nope. Alright, I'll play this fetch land out. So our opponent should set up the win this turn. We'll just keep stripping artifacts out of their graveyard. So we could have attacked with our 1-2 Phyrexian Dragon Engine. We would have actually killed one of their guys, but that doesn't actually matter here. Okay, they're just getting the Lotus Petal back that was in the graveyard. That works too. Yeah, they've got us there. A long, hard-fought game, that one. So, I would like some Null Rods. The Ghost Vacuum also looks pretty darn handy. Wasteland for their Urza's Saga looks good too. We didn't see actual Factual Goblin Welder, so I'm uncertain about these. Fatal Push, Dismember, Consign to Memory, Hydroblast. We have a bunch of stuff that looks good here. I do not like the Atraxa here, but I do like the Archon of Cruelty still. So I think we're going to keep some amount of these things. So I don't think we want the Force of Wills, because our opponent just Pyroblast them and we feel a bit foolish. I don't really like the Dazes here either. So we're probably trimming some number of like Reanimate, Animate Dead style cards. Just get rid of a couple of Animate Deads. Is that fine? Our Live Turtle's probably going to be fine in this situation. They do have some big haymakers like Karn. Do I need to... No, we've got the Consigns. I think we'll be okay. Do I want some Barrowgoyfs? It's just some big monsters. Do quite like them as big monsters. Are they better than Tamiyo? Hard to say. Probably. But is it worth me trimming something for them? Relatively tough call. Maybe it's better than one of the Emperors. And then I guess we take out Tamiyo because it is blue and they are the Pyroblast deck. Do I want access to another Animate Dead? Yes, I think I want one more. Let's try that. Okay, we can keep this. We don't need to get the Null Rod out on turn 1. We can just Thoughtseize on turn 1 and see what our opponent's working towards. And that gives us a much better idea of what we're looking for when we're trying to ponder and brainstorm and stuff. Okay, 2 Ensnaring Bridges and a Grindstone alongside a Pyroblast. I don't really want all of these Ensnaring Bridges to be all up in our business. I guess we take one of the bridges. Oh, we have one answered anyway if we need to. I wonder if they go for an Urza's Saga line here with the City of Traders. They do. Okay, so that exposes them to Wasteland in quite a big way here. So we're going to ponder here rather than brainstorm. So I like the second land, obviously. So I guess we go brainstorm, troll, keep this land. I would have liked a Wasteland, but beggars can't be choosers and all that. So if they go City of Traitors, okay, just a mountain here. Holding up a Pyroblast. A lovely choice of mountain as well. There is a Grindstone. So they're holding up the Pyroblast, but we're going to ignore the Pyroblast by playing black spells here. I think we're good to go and get an Underground Sea here. Let's Entomb, go and get that sweet Archon of Cruelty action on the go. If this draws us a land, we could deploy the Null Rod as well. We pitched a mountain. We did draw a land, okay. I will go and fetch. Kind of want to fetch an island this time just in case. Let's get this Null Rod down. And then we get to Brazen Borrower, the Ensnaring Bridge. But we do have to watch out for their Pyroblast. So I imagine they're just going to play the bridge this turn. And then we're going to try and bait out the Pyroblast with our Brainstorm. If that doesn't work, then we get to Brainstorm. If it does work, then we get to stop their Ensnaring Bridge. Yeah. It's a different art because I clicked the wrong one earlier. But it's the same one we saw at the beginning. They've got a Ghost Vacuum that can't be activated. We also have a Ghost Vacuum that can't be activated in our deck. But it's not in play, so that's good. Let's cast a Brainstorm. I don't think they're going to Pyroblast that. I was correct. We have a bunch of stuff here. I guess we put back the push. No, not the push. Put back the Entomb and the Reanimate here. And then we cycle off of the Troll to go and get ourselves a basic swamp. And then we bring this Troll back. And then as soon as we find a Thoughtseize, we get to crash for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we just need to find a way around this Pyroblast. But our opponent is in a really awkward spot in terms of what they can cast here. So they need to hold up red at all times. And they have a disappearing land if they play another land. I guess they could play Painter and then blast our Archon. This is a Surveil land. It also gives us Revolt for our Fatal Push if we need that. An Urza Saga, sure. They're going to do anything with this floating mana on this City of Traitors? I wonder. A Soul Guide Lantern. A little too late that one. This might... No, it can't be a redraw actually because I'm Null Rod. I'm just going to get rid of one of our Reanimates. Sure, that can pump up a Murktide Regent perhaps. I will get a Surveil land. The thing that we're most scared of is like Painter because that can blow up any of our opponents in terms of what our Fatal Push can hit. So let's just get the Sewers going. A Reanimate. We do not need that one. A Brainstorm. Consign to Memory is certainly an interesting one to have access to here, isn't it? I would like to play this Tamiyo. I guess we're not doing Brazen Borrower stuff yet anyway. Is the Brazen Borrower more important than the Fatal Push? No, I don't think so, not right now. So our Tamiyo can just keep accruing cards. We don't get to draw the cards because of the Null Rod. But if the Null Rod ever leaves play, then we just got a bunch of cards saved up. We've got Consign to Memory up this turn. I don't care about the constructs. I might care about the tutor, but we can see. I'm more worried about stuff like Karn here, if I'm being perfectly honest. Let's get our useless clue token. We can just sit here and enjoy. Yep, you can make a little construct. It's not even that little, to be fair. But they do die to Fatal Pushes. So we let them make a construct. So what are they going to tutor for here? A Pithing Needle, maybe? We could Consign to Memory this. Do we Consign to Memory this trigger? I think so. Like, they're not attacking into us because of the Ensnaring Bridge anyway. No, I think we let this happen. Grafdigger's Cage. Well, we've already got our monsters, so that's not really an issue. We can always bounce it if we need to. But we're just trying to play around this annoying Pyroblast. So our own Hydroblast would be helpful. A Thoughtseize, so we can just take it. We have quite a lot of lethal damage because we get to get rid of a construct as well. Polluted Delta that we knew was coming. I will play this out for the Surveil action. We'll keep accruing some little Tamiyo clues. Our opponent's got less time on the clock. We need to be a bit quicker with our clock to make sure that we don't fall foul. Okay, so they've gotten second mountain. That's good news for them. It's going to be easier to hold up this Pyroblast. They can start deploying some red spells now. They didn't do anything with that mana though. I will go and get a Surveil land. I'll put it on top. That's the sort of card that we're after. It's not the exact card we're after, but it means it's going to be very difficult for us to lose. And being in a position where we're not losing while our opponent is behind on time feels like a good place to be. So we can pass through our opponent's turn relatively easily here. because we don't have any fetch lands to crack, so we can use the 2 key. I would like to cast with Replicate targeting this. So we could have just done 1 copy to try and bait out the Pyroblast. But because we're ahead on clock, we can just kind of roll with it here. Another Consign to memory. Okay. Another mountain. Tamiyo, I don't think we want to play this Ghost Vacuum out, but we might as well. I guess we could Brainstorm it back into our deck. That's probably better. Mountain from our opponent. We could take a bad card out of our deck with this Entomb, but we don't need to do that just yet. We can still Brainstorm it back into our deck soon. Ponder, that's the sort of card I'm looking for. I don't really want all of these. I think this is in any order in shuffle. We need to make our decisions quickly. A Hydroblast, our opponent has a lot of cards in hand. There's a Saga, sure. How many Pyroblasts do I think our opponent has? Probably quite a few. I think this game is going to come down to timing out more than anything. Okay, so now we get to Thoughtseize our opponent. Okay, so they have a Pyroblast here. Let's take a Pyroblast. Let's Petty Theft this. Snake Bridge out of the way. Let's Hydroblast this. Counter target spell if it's red. Disruptor Flute. We will Consign to memory this. They can't block our Troll. This is lethal. Lethal combat damage incoming. Okay, so we have to just not lose in the time it takes our opponent to do stuff. I don't think either of us has a chance to necessarily win this game. So I think we're going to go out with some Tamiyos, in with some Force of Wills, just to stop our opponent's shenanigans trying to win the game quickly. That's a horrible way to play the game, isn't it? But I think that's the correct way. We're not going to be doing Barrowgoyf stuff here, are we? Probably not. Alright. Yeah, this hand doesn't lose on turn in the first few turns of the game. We'll keep. We got 30 seconds ahead of our opponent. Don't care about that. We got Fatal Push ready. Goblin Engineer, that's fine. Russian Dragon Engine. And then you're probably going to name Tamiyo, sure. Just get rid of that. We got about a minute ahead of our opponent. I should be doing some Brainstorm stuff, but we just need to not die to the clock. 4 mana. Khan the Great Creator. Okay, let's crack this for Underground Sea. Let's cast with Replicate, tagging this. Replicate 1 time. This just plays around Seaman Spirit Guide into Pyroblast. Slow the game down. We're doing to Brainstorm, I think, now. Right, we'll put this one back and this one back. Crack this, get Surveil Land. On top, this is interaction. Goblin Engineer. Let's counterspell that. And Goblin Engineer. That's more triggers for you to deal with, isn't it? Just bounce this guy. Slow our opponent down. It's probably not the optimal way of doing this, but I am under the gun a little bit here. Our opponent's floating some mana response. Let's play this guy again. So Brainstorm at end of turn, but okay, we have a Ghost Vacuum. That's good news. That covers us pretty well here. Red Elemental Blast on our guy. Right, Brainstorm, what are you doing for us? Put back this and this. Kill this guy. This is the biggest power threat that I can access. They're going to Soul Red Lantern. Okay, they're Disruptor Fluting themselves here. Okay. This is each opponent's. They can't do anything about that. Petty Theft. Ponder here. Ponder again. Do we need to reanimate another creature here? Our opponent's on 3 life. I think we can reanimate this Murktide Regent. No, we have to reanimate one of their guys. We don't care. Let's pass. 46 seconds. We are now behind on clock, but we only need 1 attack to win. Our opponent drew a mountain. We get to win this game. What slog? Alright, I guess I get a cantrip here. Alright, so we managed to get the win with an actual factual win as well. Obviously, neither of us are playing perfectly in that round because we have so little time, but it's nice that it came to a real conclusion instead of clocking. But the clock is part of the game, and also it's going to impact how we played. But yeah. Real heater, we're still a really good deck. This is, I think this matchup is relatively even. Alright, let's go to round 3. Tamiyo plus Daze, some cantrips to fix things around. That seems like something I want to start this game with. Seat of the Synod. Are we on some kind of combo deck. Or are we on Classic 8cast? We're on Classic 8cast. Intriguing. I'm curious how that pans out for us. Oh no, we're not on Classic 8cast. We're on some kind of like Riddler variant maybe? So I think the cards we get off the Tamiyo might be a little slow. But if we Tamiyo and Ultimate it in short order, that's probably quite good too. Do we need to ponder here looking for more interaction? I think we probably do. Force of Will is certainly action, isn't it? Right, so we've got Ponder and Daze. Daze might be difficult to leverage here. What we really want is a way of dealing with this Emery. I think we let the Lion's Eye Diamond happen. We're going to try and hit the payoff. We'll probably pitch the Tamiyo. We're going to try and do something to set up an Archon of Cruelty. We can certainly do that next turn. We can fetch land. With this on the stack, we can Brainstorm if we find a reanimation spell. We're golden. Sure, you can get back your Lotus Petal. I don't know what sort of permission our opponent has access to. An Entomb. This is probably getting an Echo of Eons. So we want our opponent to discard their hand to this Lion's Eye Diamond, to cast the Echo, or Defense Grid. That's saucy, isn't it? Okay. So the play here is, we don't get to Brainstorm in response. We can Brainstorm and put it in. That doesn't actually help us as much as I would like it to. I think that's still the better thing to do here though. But we don't have to do that right now. We can do it in our opponent's turn if we want to. But we could find something like a Fatal Push. So I think, I don't know, but the Fatal Push doesn't work either. Maybe we just do an ordinary Brainstorm here. And we worry about trying to get this Archon of Cruelty in later. And Orcish Bowmasters. Let's see if you want to crack your Lion's Eye Diamond or not. Would you like to pay? I assume they will because they've cracked it. Okay. I will dispose of this using the Tamiyo. They obviously did pitch an Echo of Eons over there. So none of these cards fill me with a great amount of joy. Get rid of this Archon and one of the Trolls. So we can shuffle these cards away right now. But we're probably getting stung by an Echo this turn, unless our opponent wants to go for the... Actually, they can't Echo, they have to Defense Grid. I think we just Entomb putting in a... Well, they're getting their Lion's Eye Diamond, so they're going for it this way instead. So we could try and hit their Echo of Eons here by trying to hit with Brainstorm, but we have to hit Exactsies, and I don't think that's worth doing. I think we just take a new 7 and enjoy the new 7. Daze, it's not useless. We've got a Brainstorm, we can get Surveil Land. A Defense Grid, you say? Let's go and find a little bit of land here. So after Brainstorm, Thoughtseize and a Force of Will. I certainly like having access to the Force of Will here. We can put back the Undercity Sewers and probably another land here. Fire this off, pitching the Tamiyo again. They can obviously replay this, which is not the best thing in the world for us. So we get to draw a land here. So we can ponder. We know the top card of our library, don't we? Let's crack this first. Then we'll cast a ponder. Can we just find a Fatal Push, please? Any order, shuffle. Did not find a Fatal Push. I'll Thoughtseize my opponent here. Grape Shot, Emery, Mind's Desire. Oh! Okay, I meant to move that box and accidentally click the Bowmasters, but Bowmasters is actually the card I wanted to take, so I can enjoy my fat fingers in there. It was actually quite useful. Mind's Desire as well. Bit of a spicy one over there. Our opponent is known for their spicy decks though. Do I want to daze this? Is there any point of dazing this? I don't think so. I don't believe our opponent's going to do very much this turn. Another Emery to mill some other cards. See what you find. Lava Spur Boots, that's cool. That's presumably to go with their Urza Saga, but can just occasionally just give you hasty Emerys, which is pretty sweet indeed. How good is our opponent's Orcish Bowmasters here? Like, it's not bad. It's not bad. They can get back the Lava Spur Boots and keep their creature protected. We could just bounce this Emery though. I don't hate that. It's Not the play I would ideally like to make, but I think it's fine here. Just slow our opponent's roll a touch. Where are my fatal pushes? Sure, there's the Emery that we knew about. They milled some more cards. Maybe they milled something even juicier for us to Animate Dead. They did not. Do I care about the Thoughtseize? It's fine. Let's see what they're working with here. A Dark Ritual is interesting. Like we could bounce the Emery again, or we could do the Bowmasters play. I think we get rid of the Grape Shots. So they don't have an easy route to getting us with the Bowmasters here. Then I'll reanimate their Bowmasters. So Echo of Eons becomes a horrible proposition for our opponent. We don't quite get to start beating our opponent down yet though. And they can bring back the Lava Spur Boots, or they can get the Bauble going, but the Bauble pumps our guys. There's a Chromox we know about. I accidentally clicked to remove all those. So what are they put? It's probably a Mind's Desire. They had 2 of those. Another Emery Shot. Lotus Petal. Is this going to be a Mind's Desire? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they still need another mana to do Mind's Desire. But, oh yeah, but they got the Dark Ritual that we've seen already. Yeah. So they're going to do a little Mind's Desire for 4. Okay, for 5 with an Entomb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. Let's see how good it is. An Entomb. A Mox. A Bowmasters. Bowmasters pinging our Bowmasters is pretty good. Double Bowmasters. Dark Ritual. Right, double Bowmasters it is. They can use the Mox Opal to then spin the wheel here, and they'll kill us dead this turn, right? Let's see if our opponent sees the line. They should do. Our opponent's pretty good at Magic the Gathering. They know what they're up to. They don't have... They already have an Echo in the graveyard as well, so they don't even need to Entomb for it. So probably save this Entomb and just play the Opal and the Echo. There's the Mox. You're going to play yourselves that little Echo, because then we get pinged for 14 off the Bowmasters. That'll do. So I would like some access to some Null Rods and the Ghost Vacuum, kind of an awkward combo to have them both there. They are probably in as a Saga deck, so we want the Wasteland. Dismember looks good here. The Orcish Bowmasters looks very good. Fatal Push looks good. Consign to Memory looks good. So we want this selection of 11 cards. That's a lot. That is a great deal of cards. I don't think this game is going to be about doing Tamiyo stuff. We want all our counter magic in. We want Hand Disruption. Seems very useful. We kind of need to win with our Reanimate plan most of the time, I reckon. So what does that leave us cutting? The cantrips? That seems a bit wild. 11 cards. How useful? I don't think the Dazes are actually that useful. Our opponent has a lot of spare mana and they're going to play around them. They're a pretty good player as well, like I said, so they're going to know what they're doing. I don't know if we have enough time to do pondering stuff here. We probably have enough blue cards here for our forces. And we get these 3 and the Atraxa. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's a bit low. I don't think we can afford to board out any more blue cards. Maybe we can't even afford to board out these ponders actually. Which means we're probably trimming on... Like the Reanimates are so good though. Like doing our Reanimate plan is just really strong here. Maybe the Emperor of Bones is too fair and that can go. We do need these pushes. Do we need all of these things? I think so. This is a tough one. Maybe we are just trimming on like some of the slower things, like a couple of Animate Deads maybe go. Maybe the Murktide as the 1 blue card we cut. And then we can't really cut a Troll because that's part of our mana base. Although we are boarding in a Wasteland, so maybe we can trim 1 Troll. Is that a little sketchy? Maybe. Do we need to dismember? I think we do because they are so dependent on like the Emery stuff. Maybe we get rid of the Thoughtseize. As wild as that sounds. Our opponent is going to be playing stuff to the board quite heavily. Consign to Memory is a good place to start. Wasteland is not bad to have. Alright, I will keep this one. I think it has some reasonable game into what our opponent's putting down. Let's just play out this Underground Sea, hold up our Consign to Memory. Bauble is not the sort of colourless spell I want to be countering here. I wonder when they fire this off. They might just be keeping it around for Metalcraft. They might also have a Duke plan involving Kappa Cannoneer. We have to make a decision if we're using our Wasteland to just take them off of their land when they're a pretty low land count deck anyway. I think that makes sense here. Or we could Undercity Sewers. I think I'm going to Undercity Sewers actually. Because I'd like to use the Wasteland to get Revolt to kill an Emery. Sure. That kills an Orcish Bowmasters and it kills an Emery. So the Consigned Memory is going to have to be a thing that counters like a Lion's Eye Diamond, most likely, or a defense grid. An Ancient Tomb. We're going to see a defense grid around Daze. I think we have to say no to this one. I would like the ability to cast spells on my opponent's turn. A Mox Opal. Sure. So this could be an Emery, which is a little bit what we've been waiting for. Yeah, okay, so they mill a bunch of cards and then we Wasteland and Fatal Push. So we're very much rewarded for the play we took last turn. I'm going to take them off of blue here, I think. They don't have anything I want to take from their graveyard with our Reanimate, so we're going to pass it over. If they'd have milled over an Orcish Bowmasters, I would have taken that. We've got a Fatal Push for something like a Bowmaster if they go for like a Bowmasters Lion's Eye Diamond line, which is why it's important to have instant speed interaction here. I am happy to play this Brazen Borrower and be down with it if our opponent doesn't do anything next turn. An Urza's Saga, sure. Let's just start putting the pressure on our opponent. Brazen Borrower. So what this will do is make the Ancient Tomb activations really painful. Let's attack. I'll deploy this Ghost Vacuum and use it to suck up artifacts that they can rebuy. So this is going to significantly weaken the Emery because the Emery can't really do anything whilst the Ghost Vacuum is in play. Because wherever they target, we just exile. If you're going to be making constructs, we have a Fatal Push that can answer the first one. Another Ancient Tomb is an awkward set of mana. We should be vacuuming, but I've passed priority in the turn by accident there. Force of Will. Okay, let's just attack for a little bit. We can obviously just draw into some pretty spooky stuff if we need to. Yep, that is a 2-2. So I imagine they're going to make another one and maybe give it Lava Spare Boots. This is also going to turn on their Mox Opal and give them coloured mana that they've been short of for a little while. I don't think I activate the Ghost Vacuum in response to them getting a Pithing Needle, because if they get a Pithing Needle, I don't mind that much. Like the Bauble is a little bit annoying because it gives them redraws, but I don't think this game is going to be about the redraws at the moment. It's just going to be a straight up race, unless they can string together something busted, which might be possible now they're going to have access to blue mana. So this could get a Lion's Eye Diamond as well. Okay, they're floating mana off of this. That is worrying. We could blow up the construct in response so they don't get Metalcraft, but they're just going to get a petal here, so it is what it is. A Dark Ritual. Okay. An Entomb. So they will be able to wheel here because they have priority before we get to do anything. Mind's Desire. How much is Storm here? Can't be many. 4. Okay. Another Mind's Desire. That's a pretty good hit. An Orcish Bowmasters. We have removal for that. That's good. And as a Saga, sure. So kind of good with the Mind's Desire, but the others are bad. But the Mind's Desire should make up for it. As soon as we get the ability to do this, we do lose our Brazen Borrower, which is unfortunate. I would quite like to get a new hand here. It is awkward that they're going to have a big Mind's Desire. Our interaction here is very light though. Right, so Storm Trigger is on, and we're going to see some copies of Mind's Desire. Defense Grid, that's whatever. Mox Opal, whatever. Dark Ritual, doesn't do anything. An Echo of Eons, and a Mind's Desire. So there's no point us getting rid of this Echo of Eons in the graveyard because they've got one they can cast for free up here. Are they worried that we have an Orcish Bowmasters though? Because that's a distinct possibility here. And that would be a reason why we wouldn't exile the Echo. A Defense Grid. Okay, so we kill the Orcish Bowmasters here. Let's get rid of this Echo. We're going to get a new 7 in the very near future. If they have another Bowmasters here, then that's pretty good news for them. Doesn't look like they do. What does our hand do here? We can kill some creatures, but not right now because of the Defense Grid. So our opponent does get to tee off. They have Storm 10, but they've shown us that their win condition is the Grape Shot. They might have Grape Shot and Tendrils, to be fair. Okay, so they have a Bowmasters. Are we going to be wheeling here? Another Bowmasters. This is 14 damage if they wheel us. And we're on 17. So we're not dead yet. They already have the wheel in the graveyard, so this is a decent chunk of damage. And they don't need to find much more to kill us. Bunch of triggers. We've got our own Bowmaster. So they're going to have some big creatures here. 4 mana. 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 4 But they don't get to attack this turn. The construct does though, doesn't it? That's the issue here, right? So they're going to put us down low enough that the construct can just come in for lethal. So we go down to 3 and then the construct just taps us in. Yeah, GG's opponent. Alright, there's some 0 mana spell combo decks out there because the ban of Vexing Bauble. Before, all the combo decks were basically Vexing Bauble decks, and now there's something different going on. Alright, 3 rounds down. Let's see how we do in the back end. We are on the play for round 4. What does our hand do? Not a lot, to be honest. I think we can do much better than this. This Undercity Sewers is a little bit awkward. Do we take a hand that just dies to Wasteland? It's a pretty good hand. What are we putting back? It's probably the Reanimate. Like, we could high roll here. How much do I want a Fatal Push? I guess we don't need a Fatal Push if we've got free counter magic anyway. Oh, our opponent's mulligan to 5, so very happy with the free counter magic side of things. Because we're not living in Psychic Frog world anymore, so having a removal spell for Psychic Frog in your hand every game isn't the important thing anymore. Maybe having a removal spell for Tamiyo might end up being, but we'll see. Tamiyo is not as strong as Psychic Frog, thankfully. A Murktide Regent. That is not a land, so that can go in the bin. We do not want to get Wastelanded here. But surely someone who mulls to 5 isn't just going to straight up Wasteland me. Alright, a Misty Rainforest. This could be some kind of Nadu deck, which I think is probably one of the better things going. This can't be countered, and now I do wish we had that Fatal Push. Sure. This is most likely Nadu Elves. It could be the Nadu Zenith deck, though. Okay, I would love to hit a land here. I'm going to believe in the deck and brainstorm into no lands. Jesus. Oh dear, oh dear. That is some bad news bears right there. So I guess we put back some cards we're not casting anytime soon. Should have gone for the Fatal Push, and now we're brainstorm locked, and our opponent knows it. We do have some action. If we daze anything this turn, which is unlikely with the Allosaurus Shepherd, but if we do, we don't get to cast a spell next turn because our land comes into play tapped. Metal Sentinel. Ooh, maybe we're on just like classic elves. We could die this turn. Green Sun's End. This is going to go get Heritage Druid, I believe. And then going to tap for 3. Yeah, just not firing off that Fatal Push and going for the developing made sense. I think that's the correct line still, even though it didn't work out for us. It's better to play... Okay, they have a Wild Symbiote. Okay, that's a little bit annoying. But I was going to say, it's better to play to win than to play to avoid losing. Obviously, there are situations where that changes, but generally speaking, I'd rather try a line that gives me a chance to win the game. So we can Thoughtseize here, but I think we're better off just Fatal Pushing this Allosaurus Shepherd with something like a Natural Order on the stack. Yes, they do get to Wild Symbiote and bounce it, but we wait till the good spell is on the stack before we do it. Now, depending on what they can chain here. Sure. I'm surprised they didn't come in for attack with that Metal Sentinel first, unless they're planning on doing an overrun this turn. Elvish Visionary. Not a bad card to have right there. This is not our moment. We have to fight over something like a Natural Order. Right, so we're going to redeploy the Elvish Visionary. So we could Fatal Push right now and counterspell this Elvish Visionary, but then what do we get to do next turn? Not a lot is the answer to that one. We know the next card we're drawing doesn't do anything though. So we know this works because they've already used their Symbiote this turn. So I could Daze this, but then we won't have Force of Will up. If I want to Thoughtseize our opponent. Would I rather have a Thoughtseize next turn or a Force of Will? I think it's probably a Force of Will and the Surveil land. I'm going to take a little hit there. We're going to draw Emperor of Bones next, which is not where you want to be. But our opponent isn't where they want to be either. We could play a Tamiyo in a couple of turns, which stymies some of the damage. I will put this into my graveyard. Boy, howdy, is that a nice thing to see. So next turn we can Reanimate, and that should find us a land if we look 7 deep, and then we can Thoughtseize, hold up Force of Will, and just be ahead in a big way. So if we Force of Will this, our opponent doesn't get to draw a card. They don't get 4 mana for a Natural Order either. That all seems pretty handy to me. So we'll take a little bash for 5, presumably. Then we get to Reanimate and Thoughtseize this turn cycle, unless we get really unlucky with our Atraxa hits. 10 cards is a lot. They can't have... Okay, we found the land anyway. Do you have an Endurance as your last card in hand? I think you probably cast that in response. Feels like they have an endurance. I'm just going to fire off this Thoughtseize right now. Sure, we don't waste our Reanimate unless we know it's going to work. My Magic Online is lagging a little bit for me. It was a Dryad Arbor. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can reanimate this and go to 1. This loses us the game a lot of the time, actually, doesn't it? Because our opponent can attack with just the 2 Nettle Sentinels, bounce the one we block, and kill us. Yeah, we've lost the game here. We didn't need to do that. We'll take an Entomb. I guess we'll take a Reanimate. I'll have an Island. I'll take this Troll. That'll do. Our opponent does have to see the line, but they do have a line that wins them the game here. If we don't go for that Thoughtseize line, yeah, we probably could have mathed that out, couldn't we, if we're being honest? Yeah, I think that's on me that we lose this one. Oh wait, no, they need to untap their Nettle Sentinels. They need to cast a green spell. Oh, they didn't cast a green spell. Yeah, are we supposed to Thoughtseize there? Like, if we don't get our Atraxa in, then we're definitely dead. But if they have any green spell here, we are dead. I don't know. Not convinced by how we did that one. Okay, so Fatal Push looks good. Dismember looks good. Orcish Bowmasters look good. The Wasteland for Cradle is probably good enough here. And like Consign's Memory can stop some of their triggers, but I don't think that's what we need to be doing here. We probably want to exit the Bone Zone, and we don't really want these Dazes. That leaves us looking for one more cut here. I like the Thoughtseize. I like the... It's probably the Tamiyo, actually, is a little bit on the weaker side here. We could keep the Emperor of Bones in. We could try the Barrowgoyf so they can't just aggro us down. That's probably better than these Tamiyos, in all honesty. What is our blue count, though? 10, 14, 16. So our blue count is a touch low here. But what do we put in to help this out? Like, the Tamiyo +1 is good against some of what our opponent's doing. Maybe we just need the Tamiyos over the Barrowgoyfs, just so we have more blue cards. I could believe that. Like, we've got some other threats in the Bowmasters. Bowmasters going to be very good, especially if they're on a Glimpse line. Okay, we have Removal Spell, we have Counter Magic, we have Thoughtseize. I like this hand. We'll find a way of winning the game at some point. We've got 2 cantrips. Probably one of them's going into a Force of Will at some stage, though. Allosaurus Shepherd is something we can kill when a good spell is on the stack. Nettle Sentinel, sure. This is not where we fight. A Reanimate. So we could Troll Reanimate if we wanted to. I don't think we need to fetch basic lands against our opponent. So we could see another 1-drop into Cradle, into some pretty good stuff. We do have Dismember to help with that. Birchlaw Ranges. Okay, that's reasonable. It's only 2 L's for 1 mana. It's not the same rate as Heritage Druid, which is pretty bananas as a rate goes. A Ranger. So they can untap a creature by bouncing a forest. That's okay. I don't think that's what we're fighting. We're going to fight on a Natural Order style payoff. Or a Green Sun Zenith. Something along those lines. Heritage Druid. That's a pretty solid one. We're untapping some stuff. I think we allow this. 3 mana, we know they've got a land in hand. A Wirewood Symbiote. That is an annoying one. Again, I think we can beat what our opponent's putting down right now. Okay, so they can tap for 1 mana here and then redeploy the Quillen Ranger and then use it to bounce a forest and untap a guy again. But this has to lead somewhere, right? A Green Sun Zenith X equals 2. That's going to be for an Elvish Visionary. I think this is a good place to pick a fight. Now, we know they can't play a Cradle. They've already played their land for the turn. So we could Brainstorm at end step, looking for exactly Entomb and get something big and scary going. They got 1 card left in hand. Are we getting bashed with the Nettle Sentinel? We are. I like the Brainstorm here. So we can set up Atraxa or Archon of Cruelty. That's pretty strong. We have the Archon of Cruelty, but that's not really where I want it to be. We have another Reanimate, which isn't the most exciting thing. I mean, sorry, not another Reanimate. We already had the Reanimate, didn't we? I guess we're going to draw the Reanimate. And then we'll shuffle with this. We could have done this in the upkeep, but I think we want to have the Reanimate. We need a way of winning the game at some point. I don't think I want to Thoughtseize here. I think this is a kill their creature situation. It's certainly not free for us to do that though. Our opponent has a decent amount of pressure. They've only got 2 cards in hand though. We want them to ideally use the symbiote in a way where we get to do something about it. Glimpse of Nature. This is not one that gets to resolve. Not on my watch. What is that last card in our opponent's hand? Okay. Is this going to be casting a spell or is this going to be aggroing us down? They could just natural order here and just ruin us. Morph. This is going to be the Birchlaw Ranger we've just seen. They've already used their symbiote here. Oh, I don't like doing this very much, but I think it's correct. Tamiyo. Really the one we wanted, is it? So if we cast Reanimate on Troll of Khazad-dum, we get to block 2 creatures, but then we take 2 damage, and that'll be lethal. So I think our opponent's going to kill us just with Elf Beatdown, which is cool. Obviously, if we at any point draw an Orcish Bowmasters, the game is kind of over. There's a Birchlaw Ranger. Is it better to attack with that as a 2-2? Alright, our opponent decides they want mana instead. That's a little scary. Once upon a time, what are you going to find? Elvish Visionary, not a bad one to have access to. They can use the Quirion Ranger. Yep. I do like elves. I think it's a cool deck. I don't think we're going to see loads and loads of Orcish Bowmasters now that Psychic Frog's banned. I think some decks will kind of replace the slot with Orcish Bowmasters, but I don't think that's necessarily the effect that the Reanimate deck wants, because it needs to have a blue card like Tamiyo so it can pitch to Force of Will. Otherwise its blue count's too low. And I do think that blue-black Reanimate is probably still the best blue-black deck. Alright, we've got a lot of guys here. Where is my Engineered Plague? Alright, we're untapping the Heritage Druid. This might just be so they can force through 1 damage. I'm not sure if this was better than just attacking with everything they had. Possibly. Orcish Bowmasters, please. Atraxa Grand Unifier. Well, we can Thoughtseize ourselves and Reanimate it and then die to our own Reanimate. That doesn't sound great. What does our opponent have in hand? They have the... am I attacking here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage. Doesn't feel good for us, does it? I think we're just going to lose this one. But we're going to attack and we're going to crack this clue. Maybe find a Force of Will here. Or we find a Surveil Land. And Entomb. Entomb doesn't help us because of our low life total. We need to be able to Animate Dead whatever we're looking for. Also, a Brainstorm and then plussing on a Tamiyo is very good on this board. So arguably we keep the clue there in case we draw a Ponder, but we're making clues every turn, so it's irrelevant. Okay, you've got a lot of creatures there. Big Daddy Hoofs off of the natural order, perhaps? We're just digging a little bit deeper with the Visionaries. I think if they had Hoof, they would have gone for it by now. Allosaurus Shepherd. Do they have the ability? They've got the Ranger. Can that do enough here? It can untap the Birchlaw. That gives them 1 mana. No, because then the Ranger's tapped, doesn't it? Oh, they definitely have lethal next turn. Okay, they've got a Birchlaw from hand. That should be enough now. Then they activate these, pump it into the Allosaurus Shepherd, attack for 5, 6, 7. Yeah, no, that works for me. Okay, let's go to game 3. Don't want to do anything differently. I don't think so. I just like having removal. I think our reanimation plan is pretty good. The Tamiyo really doesn't feel great, but I still think we need the blue cards. Entomb Reanimate is not a bad place to be, is it? I will keep this hand. So we can Entomb, and then we can Reanimate and Wasteland as well in the same turn cycle. Pretty disgusting stuff. They may have access to an Endurance here. We will find out. The Archon of Cruelty. They have 1 creature in play. Wowzers trousers. We do just get to do it again next turn as well. I think that means we cycle the Troll now, and then we go and animate. So that guarantees us 3 mana for next turn. If this doesn't work, we can get Atraxa going. This will be a 2 for 1 if they have an Atraxa here. Sorry, an Endurance. Although we would have already lost the Entomb, so I guess it's 2 for 2. Very macabre. Sure. Pretty good. But next turn we get to Entomb, and Reanimate and Atraxa. Our opponent could kill us this turn though. Elves can be really, really explosive with the right draws. Alright, Misty Rainforest is not the right draw. They needed some sort of cradle draw mostly. So this is probably just going to be attack for 2, second main phase, make something like Elvish Visionary to untap their guy. Or another Sentinel, sure. Maybe they're going off here, but not in like a big way that kills us, but they're just going to spam a bunch of permanents. Fail push is good, but I think we just want to get the Atraxa going. Do you have another Fairy Macabre? They do. Intriguing. Okay. So we're now on the Fatal Push plus Murktide Regent plan. So I would like to draw a black mana source next turn. So we can kill a creature and then deploy a large Murktide Regent. We're just getting the bits in. Just send in the boys. Boom. Just casual 5. Love seeing it. Dryad Arbor. Please can we draw a black mana source? We did draw a black mana source. So this is where we get to do everything really. So we can Wasteland this Dryad Arbor. So you can play this Murktide Regent. It's not the largest, it could be, because we're saving the Fatal Push for our opponent's turn. I guess we could push the Dryad Arbor. But what if they play something spookier? So someone like a Allosaurus Shepherd that threatens to turn all their guys massive. Another Nettle Sentinel. Okay. These Nettle Sentinels are just 2/2s. They can windmill them in and get a little bit chip damage, but we gobble one up. Verdant Catacombs is not a cradle. Attacking looks bad here. I think we need to get this game won. If we give our opponent time, they will just keep drawing more elves and beating us down. So this is going to be roughly a 3-turn clock. Our opponent kills us in also 3 turns. But we have the first crack here, and we have a Fatal Push. Have you got yet more Dryad Arbors? I'll buy you. Okay. Let's see what they attack with, and then we can decide what we're Fatal Pushing. I think we want to Fatal Push something here. So all these elves are going to untap. We could Fatal Push this Dryad Arbor. We could just take 2, 4, 6, 7. I don't think we can do that. I think we have to take this because we've calculated taking 5 a turn. So now they know Force of Will is off limits. Mental Sentinel untaps the boys. 2, 4, 6 damage they're representing right now. So at present, we are winning the game. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand that could change that though. But we're about to draw a card that could change that ourselves. Is it time to draw that Orcish Bowmaster? It is time to draw Orcish Bowmaster. Look at that. If you speak its name, it will come. I think the play here is to Orcish Bowmasters now and take out this Dryad Arbor. Because this represents mana that gets them towards Cradle to more Cradle mana a lot more easily. We'll leave this card in hand, give our opponent something to think about. It's not an else, they couldn't bounce it with the Symbiote. So yeah, they'd have 4 mana for natural order if we didn't kill that Dryad Arbor and they played a land. Cradle still gives them natural order, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. 4 damage. We can take 4 damage here. We could block with just an Orc army just to save ourselves a little bit of damage. I don't hate that just in case there's something weird coming out. Like there's an elf that domes you for a number of elves in play. I haven't seen it for a hot minute, but it's certainly a card that exists. We could be seeing something like an Endurance to block our Murktide. We've got a Murktide, an Endurance there. I wonder if they put their cards back into their graveyard. Back into their deck from their graveyard. 2 Gs we got from the opponent. Alright, we managed to get there. We are 4 rounds in and we are looking for the 4-1 if we win the last round. So let's see if we can do that. What do I want to do with this hand? Brainstorm is a pretty hard tool to pass up. And if we find one of our 6 reanimation spells, we're just live to do really great stuff. So I think I'll keep this one. I think we'll probably play out this Flooded Strand first. I don't want to just fire off an Entomb into the void. But I don't mind firing off a Troll. Alright, I'm not going to fire the Troll off just yet, because our opponent might be doing reanimation stuff. We don't want to give him a little tool to work with. I think we're going to go fetch basics here. Island. How do I feel about brainstorming here? I like it. Get it down before a Bowmasters comes down. A Thoughtseize is exactly the sort of thing I wanted to see here. I don't think this Wasteland is going to be that relevant. And I don't know, maybe the Troll here. I guess we could get rid of this Underground Sea and the Troll. And then this gets us a Swamp. So we're playing on basics. And we can see what our opponent's up to over there. There could be a combo deck, so disrupting them is important. Let's find out. A Force of Will pitching Ponder. That is interesting. That suggests to me they're about to get Entomb Reanimate on. There it is. The Atraxa. That's pretty darn good. Yep, I can't really fault our opponent. They're just doing the same nonsense we are, really. So, okay, no, they're heavier into the Reanimate strategy here. They are not tempoing. They've just decided to do away with the tempo element and just be a Reanimated deck with good counter magic. Makes sense? Scalding Tarn, Atraxa, Grand Unifier, Thoughtseize, Animate Dead. I think we're going to scoot this one up. This is my third video I'm recording today because I waited for the bans to come out, so I'm pretty tired. And I would like to keep my brain together. Okay, so I would like this Dark Betrayal, I guess. On the Ghost Vacuum. Barrowgoyf is fine here. I don't know how I feel about Bowmasters. I don't think we need the Wastelands, but they are part of our mana base. We've already skimped on them as much as we can. Emperor of Bones is great here. Daze and stuff seem fine. Tamiyo, once again, seems a touch on the slow side. And then if we want this Barrowgoyf, we need to cut something else. I do think we want the Barrowgoyf. Do we need the Dark Betrayal? If our opponent's on full big Reanimator, it's probably like the Fatal Pushes that go, actually. We don't know if they're pivoting onto a Barrowgoyf plan themselves, though. Maybe I'll just keep the Tamiyo just to keep our blue count higher. I guess we can just send it here, right? They're going to have a lot of counter magic to work us out here. I think it's better just to Entomb and Reanimate than Ponder here. We'd love to have a land so we can play around Daze, but we'll just see if our Entomb resolves. Ponder from our opponent, sure. Cast this Entomb, which I believe should have been banned, and it might still be banned in the future. How do you feel about this one, opponent? You want to Daze it, okay? Sure, be my guest. If we draw a land here, we get to send it anyway. If we don't draw a land, we have to do some pondering. We drew a land. Let's Entomb again. Atraxa down. Reanimate Atraxa. This is a play pattern you all know and love, and it's still here. Okay. So what looks good here? I would like a Force of Will as my instant. I think we want to take the Tamiyo as a creature because it's blue, and that helps. We'll take a Polluted Delta and a Thoughtseize. This allows us to Force of Will on our opponent's turn, as well as having Thoughtseize and all sorts of stuff. Alright. So this game was just windmilling backwards and forwards. Do I want access to these Bowmasters to mess with our opponent? I don't think we do. I think we're just going to keep this as is. What a ridiculous game. We do not have any land, so I'm going to mulligan this hand. Oh look, Entomb Reanimate, I guess. An interesting choice here. I think we just get rid of the Troll. So, if our opponent can just send it on turn 2, sure, they might be able to send it on turn 1 because their deck is certainly more indexed into doing that than ours is. We could just Wasteland and just try and cut our opponent's mana out because we're on the draw. It's going to be a bit trickier. I'd love to have something like a Daze here. An Animate Dead. Alright, I think we're just going to try and send it. An Undercity Sewers. It's going to mill over one of their big monsters. Oh, would you look at that? It milled over one of their big monsters. Let's Entomb one of our monsters, shall we? So I guess we get the Archon here so we can try and Archon them. But if this goes wrong and they have a Lotus Petal, then they can maybe reanimate our guy. But if our opponent's going to force this with cards in their hand right now, I'd rather they do it when they have a smaller selection of cards to choose from. Let's have a look what they got here. Valvagoth the Terror Eater. That guy. Okay, so they have a Fairy Macabre. They're probably going to put that in their hand, which is not great for us. Guess we can get our own Atraxa soon. They've got more monsters in their deck. So we've got 5 cards in hand. They're not going to put one of their big monsters in the graveyard here by taking it in their hand and then discarding the hand size, because that can just help us out. So they're definitely not going to do that. They're going to take this Fairy Macabre. So they chose Fairy Macabre, Force of Will, Flooded Strand, Animate Dead. Thoughtseizes, Force of Will, Animate Dead. No Valvagoth, no Daze. Alright, can we beat what our opponents put down? I believe the answer to that is no. Maybe they don't have any blue cards to go with this Force of Will. But they have a Fairy Macabre. So they got rid of Animate Dead, Thoughtseize, and Island. How do we answer this? Okay. So I think the play here is Wasteland, Animate Dead, targeting our Archon of Cruelty, with the intention of next turn doing Entomb Reanimate. Yep, there's a Fairy Macabre. Sure. So next time we can get our own Atraxa, and maybe that's enough to push through. Maybe the Daze is enough to stop this Force of Will wrecking us. We shall see. Flooded Strand. Kind of want our opponent to cast stuff so our Daze is better. But at the same time, I don't want our opponent to cast anything, because that's not going to be great for us either. Ugh, Thoughtseize. Yeah, I think that's probably game. It's our last best hope for peace. It's just been taken out of our hand. Yikes. Oh, would you look at that? Do I believe our opponent has a Daze here? Do they have a blue card for Force of Will? All these questions. So if we waste this, they can play around our Daze anyway. So I think we're supposed to just shove it here. And maybe... Like, they have a Daze, and that gets us anyway. Alright. Can I Entomb? We can. So I can waste this. I don't think that's going to matter, though. Alright. Do you have a blue card to go with your Force of Will opponent? I imagine you probably do. There it is. And there's no point paying anything here. So we have one turn to draw Animate Dead. Well, they exile a Daze. So they did have a Daze anyway, as well as the Force. Sure. Another little Entomb. They're going to get Valvagoth, Archon of Cruelty. Yeah, I'll assume you're going to kill me there. Okay, so we lost in the last round to somebody playing a different variant of what we're doing. So let's talk about our deck. So these four cards are weaker than Psychic Frog. There's no denying that. The fact that Psychic Frog is just a self-contained thing. Tamiyo kind of is, but not on the same level of drawing cards as quickly and pressuring your opponent's life total as quickly. Yes, there is a synergy of discarding cards, but you don't necessarily need that. Like, that does have to line up. It does line up, you know, maybe once every 10 or so games. It becomes like a thing that happens. Probably less than that, in fact. But even so, I think the deck is still fine without that as a lever to pull. Is this the best thing you can play in this slot? I'm not sure. I also don't believe that Fatal Push is the right removal to be running anymore either. Is Murktide Regent where you want to be? I don't know. So the person we played in the last round, they probably gutted quite a lot of this. So probably got rid of at least these 7 cards, I would say. But we saw a few more creatures in there. We also saw some acceleration. I think we saw the Lotus Petals there. We also saw Careful Study, I believe. So their build might not even have trolls. So they might be swapping out like a quarter of the deck for a bunch of different things. Like, they might not have Borrowers in there. I don't know. So that's definitely a route you can go. Just go more heavily into just playing Reanimator with counter spells. I think an option that is available is playing Barrowgoyf instead of Frog. Barrowgoyf hits pretty hard, draws cards. But again, it's not blue, so it's going to make our Force of Wills worse, which is something to consider. And if our opponent is hosing our graveyard by removing all the cards from it, it's going to make our Barrowgoyf worse as well, which is another thing to keep in mind. I definitely think some form of this blue-black deck is going to be one of the best decks in the format. I think this, Mystic Forge, and the 2 or 3 Nadu deck. I think the 2 or 3 Nadu decks are actually the best deck in the format right now. But then I think it's a case of Karn Forge and this deck in some configuration being right up there. Because just the ability to have like a bunch of this sort of stuff and then just be reanimating and entombing stuff is really gross. Maybe we're supposed to be playing like good old-fashioned Delver of Secrets here. Maybe that's an option we could look at. Playing some sort of like aggressive slanted creatures that don't need the graveyard to work. So Delver can certainly help us with that. It also helps pressure Ancient Tomb decks quite nicely. So we could play, I don't know, some Delvers. I don't know if we want Nethergoyfs. Probably not. So if we just had 4 Delvers, that helps our blue count. And then we maybe swap these spells into some different removal spells. Maybe a Shoulder's Edict is where we want to be. Something along those lines. And do we still want the Murktide Regent? I don't know about the Murktide Regent, because it does rely on our graveyard. Now, with the graveyard hate people have been running lately of like Fairy Macabres and stuff, the Murktide Regent still gets to do its thing, because they're holding their Fairy Macabre for the right moment to stop your reanimation spells, which means you can just pay cost with your graveyard cards of the Murktide Regent. So I understand it there. But is the format going to pivot away from Fairy Macabre and towards something like Leyline of the Void or Dazzling Voidwalkers, which is another card you could potentially play here if you wanted to? So maybe that's what people start doing instead. And if that's the case, then the Murktide Regent gets worse. So I don't know what you could run instead. I kind of feel like you want an early drop. Maybe you're just running like 4 Delvers and 1 Tamiyo or something like that. Maybe we could trim like a Thoughtseize for another Tamiyo and get a couple of Tamiyos in there. I do think the Tamiyos are very, very strong. And just having the line of turn 2 Tamiyo Brainstorm can really ruin a lot of decks. But it felt like we had some tools. It felt like we're a little bit behind on the curve in terms of how to build this deck. We just need to swap out some of our removal spells perhaps. But it did feel like our deck was incredibly strong, and Entomb, meaning that we can be this graveyard combo deck without dedicating our deck to it, is just pretty gross. I personally think that a Reanimator deck should be a dedicated deck like Sneak and Show. So you should have to run things like your Careful Study type effects and have more monsters in your deck to like draw and discard them, instead of just going, oh, here's my Entomb, let's go. I don't think that's very healthy, because it's fine in dedicated Reanimator decks, but the fact is it enables decks to be Reanimator decks that aren't dedicated Reanimator decks. So we can just kind of have this. I'd also quite like to play a Metamorphosis Fanatic build. I think that is looking a little bit more promising now as well. There's definitely some various options you can do with this, but the blue-black Reanimator deck is here to stay as long as Entomb is legal. I think Entomb and Troll of Khazad-dum, whilst both of these cards are still legal, I think it's going to be hard to see this go. Like if they banned Reanimate, then you just go up to 4 Animate Dead and play 2 Metamorphosis Fanatic. Yes, your reanimation stuff is going to be a bit slower, but it's still going to be relatively viable, I would say. And the deck's still going to be really strong. I think you need to hit the Entombs and the Troll of Khazad-dum. Because if you get rid of Troll of Khazad-dum, that kind of is the free creature effectively. So this allows us to run a really good mana base that is relatively Wasteland proof. And we have a cantripping card that is good enough to reanimate, which is really, really solid and does a lot of the lifting in this deck. If you look at it funny, it's kind of like Arkham's Astrolabe in some ways, of this cantripping card that fixes your mana and also has some extra value with other stuff you've got going on in your deck. But as long as we got these 8 cards, I do not expect this deck to ever be bad. So yeah, long live the king, I guess. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. We'll be back to doing more Dark Depth shenanigans for December tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.